Okay, we are back. Welcome back to Under Contract. And today we are talking healthy homes. I know a lot of you that I spoke to previously before coming on and doing this interview were super intrigued about this whole novel concept of healthy homes. And it's not as novel as you think as we start to realize the importance of what we eat and what we drink impacting our lives. And you take it further into the surroundings that you are around all the time, whether it's your home, the environment, or the air that we breathe. We are really starting to hone in on living the best life that we can. And today I have a guest on. Her name is Christine Cimabue. I know that's correct. And she is a holistic home builder. She specializes in remodeling and building luxury high-end homes here in Southern California. And I know her clientele extends beyond that. And we're going to talk about the impact that your home has on your health. So I'm super excited about this interview. And I know that a lot of my audience and followers are going to be more intrigued about this as we dive deeper into this. But the first question that I have for you, Christine, aside from welcoming you, is when you think of a healthy home, what does that mean to you personally?
Hmm. Well, that's a good question. And my response is going to be as it doesn't matter what my vision is. And really, the only thing that should be priority is what the homeowner who's paying the bill for the architect, the GC, it's their vision. And
Mm,
whoever is on their build or renovation side, everyone on that team needs to just execute that client's vision. So, 100% of the time, my vision of what a healthy home is going to differ from my clients. And that is a good thing. Like no more cookie cutter homes. But really, if I could put a label on it, what I think a healthy home is a home that is prioritizing occupant health.
I
And
like that.
there's no building code out there that prioritizes occupant health. I mean, we've got here in California, we've got great structural requirements. That's good. We've got good energy efficiency requirements. Yeah, that's great.
Mm.
But nothing when it comes to prioritizing the actual health of the occupant. And that is going to differ, right? You've probably heard of situations where one family is doing fine and thriving in a home, but the moment another family moves in there, it's like rashes, coughing, watering eyes. Like every family is different and every home should be different.
I agree, and I like that you, phrase it that way because it is really depending on the occupant, right? The health of the occupant. Because I know I'm extremely allergic to black mold, and I can walk into a building or a room and know immediately without even visibly seeing it that there are traces of some sort of water damage or moisture going on, and maybe it's old or new or what have you. But I really like that take on it. I guess my next question for you is what prompted you to get into this business? It's a very niche business, right? It's one thing to be a custom home builder and specialize in high-end homes, but then you take it another step further and you're really niching it out, right? And doing holistic homes. So what prompted you to get into this space and what keeps you passionate about it?
Well, there's a bit of passion and a bit of frustration in this space. And I think the biggest kind of correlation, if I were to like zoom all the way out, it's just like if we were to be at the grocery store. It can feel frustrating that we have to have this teeny tiny little section of organic produce,
Mm,
and then everything else is just produce. Well, why can't we have produce and then everything else be called like toxic pesticide produce? Why is there that differentiator? Same thing with home building. Why on earth do I have to be and if select others in this tiny little category of healthy home building, doing it right, like building for longevity? We are in the little organic produce section, and
mhm.
everything else out there that the mass production builders are doing, even a lot of the luxury builders are doing, those can still get the label of luxury builds or, you know, big labels. There's a big skew out there. So,
Mm.
yes, being in this niche, and it's true, we build for very select clients that really understand prioritizing the health
Mm.
and longevity of the home. The reason that I got into that space was because I saw a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad that goes on in construction, and sometimes it's builder negligence, yes. Sometimes it's just matter of fact that people are building to building codes, and that is the bare minimum standard, not the gold standard. And there has just been the position for homeowners to almost feel intimidated to get involved in the process and being pushed aside over to no, 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 let's go focus over here and look at hardware and paint colors and the pretty stuff. That has always really been the focus.
Mm.
And homeowners feeling intimidated and nervous to know what's actually going on in their home.
Mm.
So, I landed in this space. I've been in construction industry for over 10 years, seeing a lot of bad, a little bit of good. And I myself was in a moldy home situation
Mm.
with the very first home that I purchased, which was not a good feeling. But very similarly, I purchased a home, nothing was visible. And there was a family living in that home prior to me for several years. How they were still alive blows my mind. But we would have never discovered the amount of mold in that home if we hadn't gutted it. We were doing like a big renovation to the home, and the entire kitchen, floor to ceiling, full of mold, and nothing was visible unless I demoed it. So that put me in a not so great feeling. And I've always had a passion for wellness, very similar to you, and just like, hey, this makes so much sense. We got to put this together.
Right.
So, yeah, I feel you build it right or you don't build it at all.
I love that you merged what could be perceived, and I feel like anything that comes out of a traumatic experience, like the experience that you went through, and if you can turn it around and create passion out of it and help other people, right? I feel like God puts us on this earth to serve and to fulfill our purpose, whatever that might be. And it might rise out of trauma. And out of that trauma, you're going to impact so many lives. And I feel like that's kind of the trajectory that you've been on because of your own experience. And it is so much a need, right? And in this real estate space, in the home construction space, in the remodeling space, it is such a need because I too, like you, recently was exposed to black mold and people were living in this home. The home had exposed sediment, exposed walls, gutted powder rooms, and there was black mold everywhere. And they were living in this home like this, right? I was exposed to it for 4 days and I was sick for 12 weeks after that, right? So I understand that perceived trauma that we go through, but there has to be a better way, and I feel like that's kind of what you've done, is you're lacing all of these things and providing a better way. With that in mind, tell me about holistic homes. What exactly is a holistic home? I know there are certain materials that you purchase. How do you go about choosing those materials? How do you go about, choosing the materials that are non-toxic and sustainable?
Hmm. Yeah, so we really prioritize being the homeowner advocate. We're 100% always retained by the client. Otherwise, that's a little bit of a conflict. So whether we're consulting on a project or we are doing the actual building, we always want to start with what is the priority here?
Mm.
Well, not everyone can do it all and unlimited budget. So what is the priority? I will say 90% of our clients are coming from prior water damage, have mold exposure, have SIRS, Lyme. Like we're building a healthy home that it's non-negotiable. We've got to do this. And we've got the 10% that are like, hey, I'm building a $5 million home and I just don't want it to have defects. Great. So we really take what the priority is, non negotiables, and start from there. We love to talk about no VOC paint and healthier flooring and all of those things, but we also know that those are not going to make a darn of a difference if we've got windows coming in or water coming in around the windows or
Mm.
subpar roof. So we really focus on what's referred to as the enclosure or the envelope of the home.
Mm.
And those are also like the big, big items. You're going to pour a basement foundation one time. You're
Mm.
going to pour a slab one time. You're going to want to build your roof, probably one time. So really prioritizing an air and watertight enclosure, starting from the exterior in. That's also why we really predominantly focus on just custom new builds. We
Yeah.
find that to be the most successful. Renovations can be successful, but they often require a gut
Mhm.
renovation.
Mhm.
And with us being here in Southern California, the reality is so many of these homes in ideal locations are like 1950s, 1960s. They're a little bit older. And those can be great, but you also have to, as a home buyer, understand that there are things in that home that are at the end of their useful life.
Mm.
A 1950s foundation that was poured without the proper vapor barrier beneath it that we would do today. That 1950s, 1960s home is going to have electrical wiring that is now a fire hazard and needs to be completely ripped out. So, just, on the renovation side, I really encourage understanding fully what you're getting into.
Mhm.
And there's things that are time to be replaced.
So we all know in real estate, a certain every certain however many years, right? A roof needs to be replaced. The HVAC needs to be replaced. The water heater. There's a
Yeah.
lot, plumbing, electrical, and when you come across these flippers, right, that come in and try to get everything done for a lot less, turn around and flip it and make a massive investment on it. They're certainly not considering the healthy home in that process, right? There's a lot of toxins. There are a lot of hidden sources of toxins that I think a lot of the layperson would overlook in a remodel. What are some of those hidden toxins that you feel like might be overlooked during a remodel?
Oh gosh. A flip property,
Mm,
a production build property. The facts are the facts. Those builders are building for profit. That is the primary goal. So you cannot really reasonably expect to be purchasing a quality dialed in home with really good construction practices behind the walls when the primary end result is profit and aesthetic.
right.
So I I mean, I have yet to come across a flip property that, had whole home water filtration, a leak detecting device, all of these other things that we put into a home designed for a particular homeowner. Buying a flip property, I would make a blanket statement. I would never do that if I was mold sensitive or chemically sensitive. It's just not worth it. I would much rather purchase a, $1.5 million home that needed a full gut and actually have my eyeballs behind the walls
Yeah.
and know what's going on.
Mhm.
So, and the same thing with production builds. Many of the production builds going up, they are from dirt to move in 4 to 6 months. That's just
That's
not
just what it is. Yeah.
sufficient time
Yeah.
for quality control.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge, and there's just not enough information out there about red flags to avoid.
Right.
And when you're purchasing a flipped property, you don't have the full story.
Mhm.
You don't know if the prior owner, prior to that investor, maybe the bathtub overflowed, and that's now not disclosed to you. So we just don't have the full story and history of that property to know if it's safe for somebody chemically or mold sensitive to buy that.
It's true, and the flippers who purchase it as an investment, they only know, it's only disclosed to them what the seller knows, right?
Right.
So there's a history there, and that can come back to, like you said, be a problem for someone who is mold sensitive or even, chemical sensitive because who knows what they're using, right? And who knows what they're using in place of things they should be using, right?
Mhm.
Those hidden toxins are, I think, rampant in remodels because quite frankly, I have a friend who is a flipper and he burns and he churns these things in 3 months. Like,
Yeah.
how is that okay? How is that okay? And again, I can walk into this home and go, okay, wait a minute. We skimped over here somewhere. I can smell it. I can feel it. I can see it. So I appreciate the fact that you do take that extra step. Of course you would though, because that's kind of what you're built upon, right? It's that, hey, I'm not going to take cut these corners because a holistic home, you can't cut corners. I mean,
You can't.
you
You
can't.
cannot.
Yeah.
And I have been just on the side of devastation so much. I mean, families, their child has leukemia, they're living in a trailer on the property because any other Airbnb or rental just throws them into a flare. There are families out there where this is so do or die, um, that this is all gonna catch up to us. I made a statement the other day about just the fact, like, if we could all just step back a little bit and realize there is an entire industry around mold inspections, mold remediation,
Mhm.
construction defects. 70% of construction litigation has to do with water damage. I mean, millions and millions of dollars around defective homes.
Yeah.
This is going to get worse. The reason it's going to get worse and far more prevalent is because building codes now require across the US homes to be far more airtight, aka energy efficient. And so when we have these older homes, especially here in Southern California, that are quote unquote leaky, meaning
Mm.
we've got a lot of air coming in through the exterior walls, we're getting a lot more outside air in our homes. Well, energy efficiency code requirements don't love that because that requires
Mm,
a lot
mm.
more mechanical usage. So there are now requirements to be really airtight, a lot of insulation, and not having that outdoor air infiltrate to the inside.
Right.
So if you are building a new home that is airtight and your mechanical system is not designed for that, you're going to be in a not so good situation.
Wow. Something that would seem so, not trivial because we know it isn't, but the layperson probably wouldn't think twice about that, right? They would just because they're not we have been so conditioned to think otherwise, right? And again, and it goes back to having clean water, right? We know the importance of clean water and how I think feel like people are now starting to jump on that bandwagon because it does have a lot to do with what's going on with your health, especially skin health, because a good portion of the water has a ton of contaminants, heavy metals. We know that. Um, you spoke about ventilation and mold. I know they're both huge issues. How do you design to improve air quality?
Hmm. I am a big data person.
Mm.
So even our process is heavy on verification. And if I could give like another analogy that drives me just bananas, is that if we were to go to a car dealership, buy a new car, we get in, we've got the dashboard, we're going to know if we have low tire pressure, oil change, like we know so much about our cars. And if that check engine light comes on, I mean, we're at the dealership immediately. It's so silly that we have
Yeah.
these $1,000,000 homes. We move in and we get a darn thermostat. Like, the temperature of your home,
What is that
you
gonna
do.
do?
Like,
Like, what does that do?
what's the humidity level? What's
Yeah.
the VOC level? What's the
Yeah.
air pressure balance?
Yeah.
What's the particulate count? Like, what the heck is going on in our homes? Nobody knows until it's an issue.
True.
And a big like piece is we don't even have leak detecting devices in our home, but we've got like, you know, hundreds of feet of plumbing going on behind our walls, but we don't have a system that's telling us if any of that is leaking. Like, why is that not a requirement for new builds?
Should
No,
be. Yeah.
it should be.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if any contractor out there said, hey, would you like me to add this? I'm sure a good 90% would say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And it's like, $1,000. Sure. But our homes don't have that. So it's frustrating that there's not enough education on that these are even options to homeowners. And they've been so conditioned
Yeah.
reasonably to, okay, what do I need? Well, I need an architect, I need a interior designer, and I need a contractor. They're the experts. They got it. You just cannot relinquish full control to other people to build you your home. So yeah.
No, and I feel like that should be heavily regulated, right? I feel like that should be on the punch list for any architect, contractor, et cetera, et cetera. That should be a requirement. I mean,
For us,
I
it
know for right. When you go through a real estate transaction and a home inspection takes place, if the water heater, isn't strapped or if something else isn't, kosher with that, they call it out, right?
yeah,
And inevitably, I will take it a step further and go, okay, we want a leak detector. We want something to show because if it happens, it's going to be an issue down the line, right? So I feel like these should be requirements. They should be non-negotiables. Yeah, I feel like that should be a non-negotiable. You touched on, um, efficiency. I'm really, really interested in homes today are built super tight for seemingly energy efficient reasons,
yeah.
seemingly. But that can hurt air quality, I feel, right? How do you balance the two, having energy efficiency and having good air quality when it comes to these remodels that you're doing?
Exactly. So, continuing with the theme of data, like building a
Mm,
home
mm,
or a renovation, you get the city inspector,
mm,
right? They show up for 30 minutes. They're like, all good.
mm,
That's not enough. And so, data, and same thing on the mechanical side. If you were to build or renovate a home today, virtually anywhere in the United States, you're going to have one calculation, a manual J calculation. That is not darn near enough to know the amount of fresh air that your home needs, the amount of dehumidification it needs. Like, what is what's referred to as set point? Like, are we designing a system to maintain indoor humidity at 50%? I've seen
mm,
mechanical plans that were designed around an indoor humidity target level of 70%. That is not a healthy home if your humidity is going to be maintained at 70%. That's wild. So, your mechanical system, in short, needs to be designed based off of your unique enclosure. Like
yeah.
how much air infiltration is happening around the exterior walls. Where's the ductwork going? Where's the mechanical? It is an entire system. It is not, you've got 2,000 square feet, you need X tons of conditioning. No. So that data needs to be a part of your plan. It's, not a requirement to have all of that, but it should be. And it should then be verified once it's installed. Like, is it working optimally? And
So, is nobody available to troubleshoot? Is that what's happening?
what's happening is it is not a requirement and goes back to everyone thinks building codes are the gold standard. Like, I'm going to get a high quality home with building codes. And no, that is the very lowest bar to build a
Mm,
home.
mm,
That is basically structurally sound, and
mhm,
yes, your energy bill is going to be a little bit less. But that does not, if you were to ask, all of your clients what their building enclosure was, what are your exterior walls? You've got
mm,
stucco. What's behind the
mm,
stucco? What type of insulation? A reasonable amount would
mm.
not have any idea. Again, not because of negligence, it's just because the process has been set up to just relinquish control to let the contractor do what they've always done.
So inevitably, the customer, the homeowner, they end up being their own advocate. If they're okay, and I'll give a good analogy when it comes to our health, right? When we know better, when we know, doctor, you can't tell me there isn't something wrong with me. I know my own body, and they gaslight you and say, "Oh, it's all in your head." But you're struggling with mold exposure. You know that you have, chemical issues when it comes to fragrances, and you know your body, right? So as a consumer, as a homeowner, when you're going through this process, they essentially have to be an advocate for themselves, right? And if they wanted to take a step further and say, "Hey, no, I actually want that troubleshoot. I want you to troubleshoot that. Make sure it is," right? I've got an Adobe home, for example. That's a whole different issue, right? So you're dealing with a whole different issue when it comes to those materials. But I feel like consumers and homeowners need to become more of their own advocates. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like if you're going through mold and you go to a conventional doctor that's covered by your insurance, you're probably not going to get the level of service that your body requires. So what do? You got to pay out of pocket, and you got to go to a naturopath and get
Yep.
answers
Yep.
that are specific to your body and your situation.
Yep.
It's the same thing. If you're, you know, truthfully going to the builder that your neighbor used because it looked pretty in the end, but you're expecting a healthy home, eh, you gotta, make sure you're voicing that. So we are really big on, yes, we get into material selections. There are absolutely better performing material selections for a watertight home. Everything that we do leads up to verification.
Mm,
Again, not a code requirement. Great to have the city inspector there. Love that. But we are bringing in third party inspectors. We are bringing in leak testing experts. We
I
are
love it.
bringing in air leakage experts because it is quite silly to build a home without any verification.
I love
And
it.
there is one building code requirement when it comes to leak testing. If you were to build a multi-million-dollar home today, there's only one thing in that entire home that's going to be leak tested, and it's your shower pan. That's it. So we have homes that have 100 plus windows in them. There's no requirement to leak test those windows. And they leak. New construction windows leak. And you're not going to know as a homeowner if you really have that green thumbs up. Yes, we've, passed this milestone. All good. Let's proceed with insulation, drywall, all the pretty stuff without actually having data about how your windows are performing. And so we do that on every single home, whether we're consulting or building it. They need to have data about the fact that those windows are not leaking.
It's kinda like the science, trust the numbers, right? I mean, you've data. It's like,
Yeah.
we've got
Well,
data.
and based off of what we have seen out there, I trust nobody. Everyone is guilty until proven innocent.
Mhm.
And some people are quite surprised. I do not have a scenario where this is a big contentious to do. Like it is not us against the builder. This is not, a contentious argumentative thing during the build process. Now, if you're hearing this podcast for the first time and your home's about to be complete and you say, "Hey, surprise builder, we're going to go all the way back and, do X, Y, and Z." That's going to be a little frustrating.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
this whole conversation around building a healthy home, the expectations and groundwork is set before any construction begins. So we make it clear, like, Mr. Builder, just a heads up, we're going to be doing some leak testing after those windows are installed. Give us a
Mm.
handful of days. And that builder should be jumping up for joy. He should
Yeah.
be over the moon excited
Yeah.
because what we're doing is verifying work in place, right? Like, hey, let's catch it right there. Before insulation is in, before brick is on the exterior, let's just, find the one or two areas that had a little hiccup in the flashing, fix it then.
Take
Or
care of it.
would
Yeah.
you prefer, we're going to call you back in about 10 years when now the window, insulation, drywall, flooring, baseboards, it's this whole mold remediation. No builder wants that.
No. Never. Ever. I mean, when you can take care of it right there and then.
Yeah.
Um, when clients are considering healthier options for their home but are concerned about cost, how do you guide them?
Oh, building a home, there's good, better, best scenarios. And this again goes back to client advocacy, really.
Mm, mm,
And if you are just relinquishing control and focusing on a floor plan and the finished outcome, everything in between is left up to the builder. And you should be in the driver's seat with how your budget's going to be prioritized.
mm.
Do you want to have a robust foundation that's going to, be watertight? Possibly, yes. Or do you want to have, the $15,000 chandelier? Well, it's going to be a lot easier to upgrade that chandelier in 5, 10 years than it is going to be to pour a new basement.
Yeah.
So there is a good, better, best solution to everything.
Mm.
The homeowner needs to be in the driver's seat of saying yes or no, and not find out down the road that the underside of all of their hardwood floors is moldy because the proper vapor barrier wasn't laid before the slab. If that homeowner had that decision, understood pros and cons, they would make that decision and it would not be, a surprise at what the outcome is. So there's room for every budget. Um, but yes, making informed decisions.
Yeah, of course, and it has to be throughout this whole process. When you're considering lifestyle and safety, do you take into consideration, do you address things like EMFs, allergens, or even aging in place design?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I
Mhm.
definitely like to reiterate hierarchy.
Mm,
If we were designing a home for you, like it would be a top priority to avoid mold and water damage. That's number 1.
mhm.
Well, what's our number 2? For you, it'd be clean water, probably. We'd wanna prioritize clean water, and then maybe number 3 is where we bring in EMF mitigation, and maybe number 4 is, energy efficiency, whatever.
Mhm, mhm.
But there's a hierarchy, and we have to always be making decisions around that. So when it's, budgetary conversation, well, are we gonna prioritize EMF or are we gonna prioritize, the watertight foundation?
Right.
It's conversations. With EMF, I address it very similarly to mold.
Yes.
My preference is just avoidance, mitigation, avoid it. We, can't relocate our lot, but we can hardwire our entire home. We can minimize our need for Wi-Fi. I mean, there are things we can put in place, and it's much easier to do that during construction than start slapping on EMF, shielding paint, and the harmonizer, the this and the that thing. So, during construction, mitigating is the preference.
So you mentioned something that piqued my interest. So why don't you just invent some sort of alarm that goes off when you're in your room and you're trying to get some sleep and you have your phone next to you and you shouldn't have it next to you. At least on airplane mode, you can have it away from you. Invent something, Christine, that says, up, no EMF zone. None. Can't have it in here. The whole house should have an alarm, right? Like just radiates this whole no EMF zone. That would be a wonderful place to be. Walk me through what a healthy home is. Your day to day, you have a new client who comes to you, and of course, I'm learning that it's occupant dependent, right? What's important to them. If I were the candidate, you're right, it would be mold first. Super sensitive to that, and then secondly would be water. Third would be any other allergens that would present themselves that I know that I have a response to, and of course, our dog, our pets, right? We have pets that bring in all sorts of parasites. They sleep on our beds, they sleep on our couches. I mean, you can't avoid parasites. I learned that in my last interview. They're everywhere. We all have them. We're the only country who doesn't cleanse as much as we should. So, if I came to you and I said, "Hey, I want a healthy home." Walk me through that process.
We love when we can get involved early. Earlier the better. Um, and we love when we can get involved early in assembling the team. That
Mhm.
doesn't always happen. Sometimes there's just a strong preference for an architect or a builder. Great. We can work with anyone as long as they're, a team player.
Yep.
So when we can help assemble the team, that is great. Because then we all understand the vision. We've worked with a lot of architects and builders, and so we can kick things off from there. And really, as a homeowner, you should feel peace. This
Mhm.
should be an enjoyable process. You should not feel like your hair is on fire for the entire 12, 18-month process. It is about extracting what your expectations are come move-in day. When you open that front door, what is that feeling? What does that look like? And we take that and document it. So we are huge on documentation. There is no such thing as over communication in construction. If you read
Mm.
it 5 times, write it down in an email. That is how construction goes. You have to have everything in writing. So
Yes.
with that, your plans are your contract. What is on your plans is what's going to get built. If you don't have it on your plans, that means it's up for interpretation by your builder. So if you don't have a window flashing detail, I mean, X, Y, and Z, there should be multiple details on your plans. If you don't have a